Chapter 18. The Non-Local Quantum Circuit. A domesticated primate philosopher on an oxygen-supported carbon-based planet circling a Type G star, namely the present author, was once asked, "How do we think?" Well, we have a built-in biosurvival circuit which distinguishes nourishment-giving things from predatory things. But can that circuit do all our thinking? Well, no, but then there's an emotional territorial circuit. But, it's circuits all the way, I said. What the thinker thinks, the prover proves. We have made a beautiful model of consciousness in terms of brain hardware and software. Now we need to remember again that while the brain can be modeled by a computer, the model is never the whole system. The model maker or metaprogrammer is bigger than the model or program. In what are called out-of-body experiences by parapsychologists, awareness seems to escape the confines of the nervous system entirely. Such experiences are routinely triggered by advanced yoga practice, and they also occur spontaneously during what is called near-death or clinical death, in which the patient appears to die by all medical standards, but is revived by modern resuscitation techniques. OOBs also occur with heavy dose of LSD and with ketamine, an anesthetic with strange psychedelic side effects. They are also reported in shamanic traditions all over the world and by many occultists in our own society. Example. One day in 1973, during a neuroprogramming experiment, I saw something happening to my son at exactly that time in Arizona, over 500 miles away. We can process this data in various ways. We can say that my astral body actually traveled to Arizona. This is the occultist theory. We can more conservatively say that I developed extrasensory perception and saw Arizona without going there. There are many parapsychologists who prefer this third circuit map of the eighth circuit experience. We can try to avert that I only happened to think of that scene while it was happening by synchronicity. This is the Jungian approach. Or we can sweep it under the carpet by muttering mere coincidence or sheer coincidence, which is a traditional rationalist approach. We prefer to say, in accord with earlier writings of Timothy Leary and the present author and the speculations of the Physics Consciousness Research Group in San Francisco, that such cases illustrate a special working of what is called in quantum mechanics Bell's theorem. Bell's theorem is highly technical, but in ordinary language it amounts to something like this. There are no isolated systems. Every particle in the universe is an instantaneous, faster than light, instantaneous communication with every other particle. The whole system, even the parts that are separated by cosmic distances, functions as a whole system. Now, such faster-than-light communication seems to be forbidden by special relativity, which makes a problem. Bell's theorem, however, is inescapable. A theorem in physics is not a mere theory. It is a mathematical demonstration which must be true. If the mathematics contains no flaw, and if the experiments on which it is based are replicable. Bell's theorem contains no mathematical flaw, and the experiments are replicable and have been replicated several times. And yet, we cannot dispense with special relativity either, because the mathematics there is equally flawless, and the experiments are legion that confirm it. Two solutions have been proposed, and both assume that the communication involved in Bellian transmissions does not involve energy, since it is energy that cannot move faster than light. Dr. Edward Harris Walker suggests that what does move faster than light and holds the whole system together is consciousness. We may eventually be forced to accept this, in which case physics will have justified pantheism, or at least panpsychism. The other alternative proposed by Dr. Jack Sarfati is that the medium of Belian transmissions is information. Pure information in the mathematical sense does not require energy. It is that which orders energy. It is a negative of entropy, that which brings disorder to energy systems. Dr. Sarfati explains his theory as follows. Imagine that your brain is a computer, as modern neurology suggests. Now imagine that the whole universe is a big computer, a mega computer, as John Lilly has proposed. Then imagine that the subquantum realm, the realm of what Dr. David Bohm calls hidden variables, is made up of many computers. Now the hardware of each computer, the universe, your brain, the subquantum mechanisms is localized. Each part of it is somewhere in space-time, here, not there, now, not then. But the software, the information, is non-local. It is here, there, and everywhere, now, then, and everyone. The highest varieties of shamanic and yogic consciousness seem to begin from dilation beyond the immediate out-of-body experience and dilate rapidly and dizzily much further to union with the smallest and the largest, the cosmic mind in short. This seems to be what would necessarily happen if the brain turned on to the non-local information system proposed by Sarfati and implicit in Bell's theorem. The metaphysiological circuit, then, is this cosmic information system. The synchronicities of circuits 5 to 7 are just the dawning notes of the symphony of all interrelated harmonies revealed to those who have experienced Circuit 8 in action. It is hard to avoid hyperbole when talking of such matters, but everything one can associate with the ideal oneness with God or oneness with everything is part of what is experienced in the vistas beyond space-time of this metaphysiological circuit. Mystics stammer, gibber, and rave incoherently in trying to discuss this. Beethoven says that for all of them, without words, in the fourth movement of the Ninth Symphony, the words of Schiller's Ode to Joy, which Beethoven set to this virtually superhuman music, are a linear third circuit map conveying only a skeleton key to the multi-level meanings of the eighth circuit language of melodic construction itself, which spans all consciousness from primitive biosurvival to metaphysiological cosmic fusion. Chapter 19, Prometheus Rising. We are extending ourselves in space and time, not because of capitalism or socialism, but in spite of them. The right-left capitalist socialist establishments are psychologically unprepared for our emerging situation in time and space. Upwingers. According to Patanjali, there are 7 limbs to yoga, or as we would say, 7 steps or stages. First is asana, which consists of holding a single posture, usually sitting, for prolonged periods of time. This is an attempt in our terminology to stabilize the biosurvival circuit by drowning it in monotony. You sit and sit and sit and sit. Eventually, an internal peace is reached, which signifies the atrophying of all background levels of unconscious or unnoticed biosurvival anxiety. In other schools, since asana is so monotonous and slow working, and because war, Second Circuit mammalian struggles over territory, so common among domesticated primates, an alternative method of stabilizing the biosurvival circuit is used, which is martial arts. Aikido, Judo, Karate, etc. all emerged from yoga-like mystic schools as biosurvival reprogrammers. The second step in classical yoga, according to Patanjali, is pranayama. We have already commented on the efficiency of this breathing technique in quieting and mellowing out Second Circuit emotional programs. it will already be seen that yoga, like brainwashing, begins from the bottom up, working on the more primitive and older circuits first. The third step in yoga is Dharana or mantra. Dharana consists of concentrating on a single image, such as a vividly imagined red triangle, and ruthlessly pushing aside any other images, verbalizations, or impressions that cross the mind screen. In practice, this is beyond the powers of most students, so the majority of yoga teachers substitute mantra, which is concentration by repetition on a single sentence, usually nonsensical, such as Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, or Om Tat Sam or whatever. Either practice, dharana or mantra, stops the third circuit internal monologue, if persisted in for long enough periods each day. The Western mystical equivalent is Kabbalah, the most complicated Jewish joke ever invented. Briefly, Kabbalah exhausts the third semantic circuit by setting it to solve intractable neurological and verbal problems. The Far Eastern equivalent is a Zen koan, which serves the same function in a less systematic way than Kabbalah. For example, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Zen koans are always combined with zazen, sitting zen, which combines the first circuit clearing asana with second circuit mellowing, breath counting, a weaker pranayama. When the student has acquired sufficient detachment from first circuit anxieties, second circuit emotions, and third circuit reality maps by way of asana, pranayama, or dharana or mantra, Patanjali recommends the practice of yama. This includes, but is not limited to, celibacy. The ultimate of yama is to lose all interest in both the social and sexual aspects of the fourth circuit, to cease to care at all about family, tribal, or societal matters. This is accomplished by self-denial, which is easier for those skilled in asana, pranayama, or dharana, but still requires intense determination. Some take a shortcut at this point, discovered after Patanjali or not known to him, by having themselves locked up in caves. Such isolation, as indicated earlier, helps vastly in bleaching out all four hominid circuits. An alternative for those not attracted to either celibacy or becoming hermits is Tantra, invented in northern India around the time of Patanjali. This simply transmutes the fourth circuit by ceremonial, physiological, and magic self-hypnotic explosion of the prolonged sexual act into fifth circuit neurosomatic rapture. For those following the orthodox path of Patanjali, the fifth circuit is imprinted by niyama, which signifies super-control or no control, being the paradoxical state of being spontaneous deliberately. You cannot be taught niyama, you can only learn it by personal experience. We hypothesize that the bioenergies have to discharge somewhere, and then when one has driven them out of the first circuit by asana, out of the second circuit by pranayama, out of the third circuit by dharana or mantra, and out of the fourth circuit by yama, they are driven explosively upward into fifth circuit neurosomatic illumination. The sixth step in yoga, according to Patanjali, is dhyana, which means meditation only in the roughest way. Dhyana means actually union with the object on the mind screen. For example, realization of the total meaning of the proposition that mind and its contents are functionally identical, opening the meta-programming circuit. One can make dhyana on anything. Yogis talk of making dhyana on a tree or a dog, just as Don Juan Matus, the Mexican shaman, talks of becoming one with a coyote or a star in the books of Castaneda. The seventh step in yoga is samadhi. Here, Patanjali and his successors are in violent dispute, some claiming there is only one samadhi, others claiming two or three or many. Since this corresponds with the opening and imprinting of the neurogenetic circuit, we must opt for the opinion that there are many samadhi depending on which or how many of the godly archetypes of the genetic archives are imprinted. Catholic mystics make samadhi on the Virgin, Sufis on Allah, Aleister Crowley on Pan, etc. And above all this, the 8th Circuit Cosmic Information Network can also be imprinted, making union not just with all sentient beings and some emblematic archetype of the DNA master program, but with the inorganic universe as well. It was from this second order or metaphysiological samadhi that Gandhi said, God is in the rock too, in the rock. And pantheists of all sorts, in all traditions, emphatically agree with Canadian psychiatrist Buck, who said after his own 8th Circuit Samadhi that the universe is not a dead machine but a living presence. This planet is, to put the matter boldly, populated and largely controlled by domesticated primates who are not in all respects reasonable men and women. Voltaire may have been exaggerating when he said that to understand the mathematical meaning of infinity, consider the extent of human stupidity, but the situation is almost that bad. Millions have been murdered by stupid leaders or stupid mobs for stupid reasons in every century, and the bizarre, accidentally imprinted reality tunnels which make this possible continue to rule us and robotize us. Nor is stupidity the exclusive possession of one group or another. You do not need a vocation for it as you do for the priesthood. It seems to be a contagious socio-semantic disturbance which afflicts all of us at one time or another. Notorious examples can be found in the lives of the great. As we have already mentioned, an exact measurement of the extent of stupidity among the learned is provided by the fact that every scientific revolution takes one generation. Elderly scientists hardly ever accept a new theory, however good it is, and the revolution is only completed when the second generation, free of the old imprints with vulnerable neurons, imprints the new reality map. But if science, the paradigm of rationality, is infested with enough stupidity to cause this general one-generation time lag, what can we say of politics, economics, and religion? Time lags of thousands of years seem to be normal in these areas. Indeed, it was through contemplation of religious history that Voltaire was led to his conclusion that human stupidity approximates to the infinite. The study of politics is hardly more inspiring. Let us just summarize the matter by saying that stupidity has murdered and imprisoned more geniuses and more ordinary people, burned more books, slaughtered more populations, and blocked progress more effectively than any other force in history. If intelligence could be increased, obviously, solutions could be found more quickly to the various doomsday scenarios threatening us. If each scientist working on the energy resources problem could double or triple his or her intelligence, work that would require 20 years might be done in 6. If human stupidity in general decreased, there would be less opposition to original thinking and new approaches to our old problems, less censorship and less bigotry. If stupidity decreased, less money would be wasted on vast organized imbecility such as the arms race, and more would be available for life-enhancing projects. There is nothing rationally desirable that cannot be achieved sooner if rationality itself increases. This is virtually a tautology, but we must consider the corollary. Work to achieve intelligence intensification is work to achieve all other sane and worthwhile goals. Maurice Nicoll, physician, psychiatrist, student of young Gurdjieff and esoteric Christianity, wrote that the only purpose in work on consciousness is to decrease the amount of violence in the world. This is public health problem number 1 in the nuclear age, the age of overkill. We are not talking about mere increase in linear IQ, third circuit semantic cleverness. We're talking of also the kinds of right brain intelligence that Nicoll acquired from Jungian neurogenetic research and Gurdjieff's metaprogramming techniques. We're talking of, say, Beethoven's intelligence, which so disturbed Lenin, who could not bear to listen to Sonata 23, because it made them want to weep and pat people on the head, and we mustn't pat them on the head, we must hit them on the head, hit them hard and make them obey. More of Beethoven's intelligence is needed desperately to create a signal that the current Lenins cannot ignore that will make them weep and stop hitting heads. We need more mentations, less munitions. The Second Circuit mammalian political games are a million years obsolete. Dr. Nathan Klein has predicted that soon we will have drugs to improve memory, drugs to erase unpleasant memories, drugs to increase or decrease any emotion, drugs to prolong or shorten childhood, etc. It takes no great imagination to foresee that such chemicals will allow us greater control over our neural tunnel realities than ever before. Obviously, people will use and abuse these potions in many ways, but the most intelligent will use them in the most intelligent way, namely to increase and intensify their intelligence in every direction possible on our spectrum of 8 circuits. Chiefly, they will use them to increase neurological freedom, to debug and reprogram obsolete reality maps, to generally expand consciousness and sensitivity to signals and information. The potential for a neurological revolution, planetary intelligence intensification, should be quite clear to anyone who has even a slight knowledge of so primitive a psychedelic as LSD. One of the least known facts about the LSD research in the 1960s was that the longest single research project with LSD at Spring Grove Hospital, Maryland, showed an average 10% increase in linear IQ alone, as well as the metaprogramming vistas and neurogenetic awakenings popularized by the outlaw LSD culture and its gurus. And there is a direct feedback loop between neuropharmacology and other brain sciences. As William Burroughs says, anything that can be done chemically can be done by other means. Yoga plus biofeedback produces detachment from old imprints quicker than yoga alone. Hypnotism and mind drugs produce synergistically more than either produces without the other. John Lee has duplicated LSD effects in his isolation tanks, etc. It is commonplace for alarmists to warn us that the full armory of synergistically interacting neurosciences now evolving will allow unscrupulous tyrants to brainwash us more totally than ever before. We need to realize that the same technology wisely used by intelligent men and women can free us from every form of neurotic and irrational rigidity, to dial and focus our nervous systems as easily as we dial or focus our TV, turning any channel or circuit off and on as we choose. This is what metaprogramming consciousness means. Why be depressed when you can be happy, dumb when you can be smart, agitated when you can be tranquil? Obviously, most people are depressed, dumb, and agitated most of the time because they lack the tools to repair and correct damaged, defective circuits in their nervous system. We are acquiring the tools, and this intelligence intensification has the pleasure principle to fuel it. That is, the more internal freedom you achieve, the more you want. It is more fun to be happy than sad, more enjoyable to choose your emotions than to have them inflicted upon you by mechanical glandular processes, more pleasurable to solve your problems than to be stuck with them forever. In brief, intelligence intensification means intelligence studying intelligence, and the first thing discovered by intelligence studying intelligence, the brain studying the brain, metaprogramming, is that the more types of intelligence you have, the more fun it is to try to develop even more subtle, sensitive, fatigue levels of awareness, higher intelligence still. In summary, intelligence intensification is desirable because there is not a single problem confronting humanity that is not either caused or considerably worsened by the prevailing stupidity, insensitivity of the species, badly wired robots bumping into and maiming and killing each other. Intelligence intensification is attainable because modern advances in neuroscience are showing us how to alter any imprinted, conditioned, or learned reflex that previously restricted us. Intelligence intensification is hedonic because the more freedom and consciousness you achieve, the more you want, the less willing you are to slip back to dumb, blind, mechanistic circuits. Intelligence intensification can accelerate our progress toward abolition of war and poverty, find cures for cancer and schizophrenia, achieve space migration and life extension, giving us space enough and time enough to achieve even more cosmic levels of awareness or accomplish any other worthwhile goals. Like death and poverty, stupidity has been around so long that people cannot imagine human life without it, but it is rapidly becoming obsolete. However, many special interest groups, intelligence agencies, so-called advertisers, tyrants, clergy, etc., may profit from stupidity. Humanity as a whole will profit more for its evolution. Approximately 50% of the human race has not evolved fully into the third circuit yet. That is, although they can exchange primitive signals and handle primitive artifacts, they are still mostly operating on the mammalian emotional circuit and the pre-mammalian biosurvival circuit. Newt Gingrich is their current leader in the United States. Third Circuit types cannot understand this and regard it as sinister, but it is simple mammalian herd behavior. Gingrich is a typical primate leader. The noises he makes, which appear meaningless to the Third Circuit rationalists, are urgently meaningful to the territorial, emotional, patriotic minds of the majority of primates. Another 20% are responsible, intelligent adults with fully developed third and fourth circuits. They spend most of their time worrying because the predominantly primate parameters of human society seem absurd, immoral, and increasingly dangerous to them. Another 20% are neurosomatic adepts. Fourth circuit moralists denounce them as mystics, space cases, nuts, the me generation, irresponsible hedonists. Most of the Fifth Circuit adepts have learned Joyce's arts of silence, exile, cunning. They're invisible. Others have turned their talents to faith healing or various occult gimmicks of that sort, and very carefully do not tell their clients that the local ideology, morality, and reality tunnel is what made them ill in the first place. They give good energy and sensibly avoid conflict with the moral ideological authorities. Another 5% have neurogenetic consciousness and function as evolutionary agents, servants of the life force in Shaw's terminology. Their god is Pen, life, and their goal is immortality. Another 3% have mastered the meta-programming circuit and make up what Gurdjieff called the conscious circle of humanity. They're Freemasons in the original meaning of that debased term, co-creators of future realities. Only 2% are neuroquantum adepts and beyond space-time categories entirely. All these estimates are approximations. The newer circuits, neurosomatic bliss, neurogenetic Atman consciousness, metaprogramming, reality games, non-local cosmic awareness, must have some function. We can only assume they're preparing us for our new situation in space-time, after space colonization, after longevity and immortality, after the acceleration factor accelerates even faster. Engineers rate an engine in revolutions per second. Looking at human history in terms of this metaphor, we clearly see that in the old Stone Age, the acceleration factor was just slowly beginning to operate. We could estimate change then in perhaps revolutions per 10,000 years. With the Neolithic Revolution and urbanization soon after, the pace began to pick up. We can speak from that point on in terms of revolutions per millennium. After Galileo, revolutions per century became the normal rate of change. In this century, we have moved into revolutions per generation. We are now obviously moving into an acceleration of revolutions per decade. By the time the consciousness revolution peaks, the longevity pill is widely available, cloning is normal, and all the ideas in the book, including the most wild and radical ones, seem quaint and old-fashioned. About 2005, we will probably be growing accustomed to thinking in terms of revolutions per year. There is no reason to accept the tunnel reality of this book as final. If you really understand the message, you will invent a bigger and better future than I have suggested. As Barbara Marx Hubbard says, the future exists first in imagination, then in will, then in reality.